Speaking of Chris Hansen, he is our guest tonight. For those of you who don't know, Chris Hansen, I know everyone here wants to talk about his former show To Catch a Predator, but he's done many things. It seems like you've got you've done. I remember you covered Columbine, and I think you covered 9/11 and
Yes.
several huge stories over on
Sure.
NBC. But I have so much love in my heart for To Catch a Predator. We were talking briefly before the recording started. Big fan. So thank you for coming on tonight.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So you've got your Kickstarter campaign running right now for your new show, Hansen versus Predator. That's correct?
Absolutely. And I've got good news today as we speak. We blew by our goal, and we're well on our way to surpassing it in a great way.
Excellent. So I've got a few questions I want to ask. For those who don't know, you're To Catch a Predator. Basically, you set up these pedophiles. They're decoys put online posing as underage boys or girls, and you sort of lure these pedophiles through online chats to a decoy house. And when they get there, sometimes there's a decoy waiting on that looks underage to lure them further into the house. And when they get there, they get to talk to you.
Exactly. Well, what happens is the decoys go online. And when we started this, we merely used chat rooms from Yahoo and AOL. I mean, that's basically what was out there at the time in 2004 when we started. And they'd go into the chat room with a profile that included a picture that was, clearly underage, and just sit and wait. And suddenly guys would start approaching. And they would bring up the topic of sex. And then they would talk about coming over to the house and meeting. And all of a sudden they're knocking on our door. And we have this confrontation with these guys. And it was really, really compelling.
So it was
And-
never really you having to bait people in. It was just
No, we had a very
you making a picture and them
Yeah.
responding on their
Yeah.
own accord. That was just
Exactly.
all it was.
We had a very strict protocol, and we will in the new investigation as well, because otherwise you get into, potential entrapment and other issues that you don't want to do. You don't want to entice somebody to do something they wouldn't normally do. That's not fair. But if there's somebody out there who's going to do it, and you can catch them doing it, and you can teach children how to be safe by getting in this guy's mind, by doing an interview with him, and teach parents how to protect their children, well, then, that's our job at the end of the day.
So when you were first approached for this, I'm wondering what the genesis of this was. Was it that you were already passionate about these online sex predators, or like when you first heard the idea for To Catch a Predator, did you think it was going to take off, or were you part of the initial
Well,
process?
I came up with the idea. I
Okay, great.
talked to a friend of mine who's a reporter in Detroit, where I came from, a fellow named Kevin Dietz, who took my job when I left to go to NBC, and he was telling me about the online watchdog group Perverted Justice. And I started to think, boy, if we could use their ability to go online as decoys and combine it with our ability to wire a house with hidden cameras and microphones, it could be quite compelling. So I pitched the story, and they decided they wanted to do it, and a lot of smart people weighed in on it, producers, senior producers, etc. And so we set up in Bethpage, Long Island to do the first one, and we're there, and I'm driving to the location, and I'm stuck in traffic going over the Throgs Neck Bridge, and I start to think, gosh, what if nobody shows up? What if I've just wasted tens of thousands of dollars of the network's money? And with that, my producer, Lynn Keller, calls and says, where are you? Two guys are scheduled to show up in 45 minutes. So traffic clears, I get there, and all of a sudden, it was amazing. It was just boom, boom, boom. But to
You're in
answer,
traffic next to the pedophiles. You're both staring at your watches like, I gotta get there.
who's going to be there first, But I thought we'd do one or two, and we'd make our point, and that'd be it. And nobody ever show up again. I mean, I figured at some point, I would end up like the Maytag repairman. I'd be, taking a nap on the counter with nobody showing up because we would have proved our point. But sadly, guys kept coming. It got to the point where a guy walks in and he puts, his marijuana out on the counter, and he's talking to the decoy, and it comes time for me to come out. And before I can say a word, he says, "Oh, you're Chris Hansen." I said, "Well, how did you know that?" He said, "Well, I watch the shows all the time, and when I miss them, I download them from the internet." I said, "Do you get the trouble that you just walked into?" I mean, it was a telling moment,
You should have stopped it. So you're telling me that not only are you a pedophile, you practice online piracy as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Bottom of the barrel, sir.
I got a
So is there
question.
anything? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this recently. On YouTube, there was a big controversy about a pedophile, but my sense of morality isn't set by the law. It's set by what I think is right and wrong. And it turned out he was an 18-year-old dating a 15-year-old, which is legal in most states, but
Right.
in Kentucky, I guess it's not. It was some sort of misdemeanor or something, but it was sexual assault, and it was just online conversation, and but there was no sex. How do you justify, or like, how does that play out in your own head when you have different laws in different states regarding what's right and wrong?
Well, we would not do an 18 and 15-year-old. It's too close a call. Excuse me. There's a lot of pollen on the East Coast these days.
I hear that, yeah.
It just bothers my allergies. You know, an 18 and 15-year-old, although illegal,
in some states,
in some states, was too close a call for us. It was always, 21, 22 or older, and 14 or younger. Because otherwise, it's a gray area. Could be wrong, could be illegal, but a gray area nevertheless.
In this case, I think I get psychologists and psychiatrists mixed up. I don't know who saw him, but he was forced to see one by the court, and they determined that these people were developmental peers, and that this wasn't like a pedophile incentivized relationship, for lack of a better term. And it was just like, man, I feel like these laws should be federalized, and there should be a national standard instead of a state by state one.
Well, that's the problem, sometimes you get into these situations where, for instance, you see in high schools, and there was a recent case in Virginia within the last year where all these kids were sexting each other, and they're all 16 years old. And then the prosecutor gets into this, and they could, charge all these kids with distributing child pornography, which is a felony. But it's peer sharing. And
Right.
so what do you do? And ultimately what the prosecutor did was call all the kids in and all the parents and say, hey, look, y'all got to wake up and realize what you're doing here is going to be out there forever. You don't need this, and it's harmful to a lot of people on a lot of different levels, and it allows blackmail, and it allows bullying and all kinds of things, and you got to cut it out because we don't want to charge everybody with child porn. It's not what the law was meant to do.
Yeah, sexting is a funny thing. Like the thing I've got in my head, in the same way that abstinence education is a tough thing, like it's hard to pitch a total zero. It's like, dude, you can send each other enticing pictures where you're wearing something, right? Bikinis are hot enough. Shirts or belly shirts or whatever are hot enough. If you want to do something semi-naughty, you can still be dressed where you don't have to regret this and allow blackmail and all that other crazy stuff.
Well, I know people always think, kids especially, and I say kids, I mean teenagers and college kids, and look, my guys are 23 and 21, and I have this discussion with them all the time. It's like, be careful what you're looking at and what you're doing, because, just because you think it goes away on Snapchat or Instagram in a matter of minutes, that's no guarantee. And especially because these guys are going into my business, I said, you don't want to deal with that,